is Damara Morgan. She has her own practice in Hagerstown. The exact name is Noje Aesthetics and Wellness?
Noje Health and Aesthetics.
Health, okay. And it's spelled N-O-J-E.
Yes.
But she could give you a few more details about that. But I'm just going to read a list of a little bit of background for her. She has a doctorate in nursing practice from the University of Maryland, Baltimore. She is certified by the American Association of Nurse Practitioners. And then she has advanced clinical training and experience in several areas. First, aesthetic injectables, which includes neurotoxins and dermal fillers, medically managed weight loss, functional nutrition and metabolic health, IV nutrient therapy, hormone and thyroid optimization, and peptide therapy. So welcome, Damara, to our time with you tonight.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I am Damara. As Orville just introduced me, it's nice to be here, so thank you for having me. It looks like there's a great turnout. Tonight I am presenting on metabolic health, and I was hoping I talk about this every day, and it's a passionate topic of mine. My background is primary care, so family health. That's what my doctorate of nursing practice is in, is family health. And I've used that education, knowledge, and experience, and I now have focused even more deeply into how functional nutrition and metabolic health are at the root of all of the symptoms, pain points, concerns that we have on a daily basis, and how we can optimize those for ourselves to feel better every day and for us to function better at a cellular level, but just on a how we're feeling and getting out of bed every day. I like for this to be not so formal, so if you have questions during, please raise your hands. Great discussion through, and then at the end I also have time for questions as well. So first and foremost, I had a slide. Orville just introduced me. My practice is called Noje Health and Aesthetics. It's now 4 years old. I've had my own practice in Hagerstown. Noje comes from my first daughter's name is Noah Jean, so it's the first two letters of her first and middle name, in case you're like, what in the world does that stand for? Okay, so the biggest question when we're talking about metabolic health is what exactly does that mean? And it's basically the why to why you feel the way you do. So that's why I wanted to start here, because most people come to me for one of the things that you see on this slide. So it's feeling tired, difficulty with weight loss or gaining weight, brain fog, feeling like your hormones are off, or having some skin issues. And a lot of people think they're separate, and I can see that because in the medical field, we treat everything very separate. We have dermatology, cardiology, pulmonology, but they're all very much connected. So they're all rooted in your metabolic health. And I'm going to show you how that works. So your metabolism is how your body uses food for energy. It is how we regulate our blood sugar, and it is how we support our hormones. And so, of course, when these things are off, everything else is going to feel a little off. So most people think metabolism just means how fast we burn calories. We've heard metabolism in the past always referred to as how fast we can burn calories and how quickly you can lose weight, but it's much more than that. And so that's what I hope you get out of today's presentation. So think of your metabolism as your body's engine, and that's how you take in food, and then you turn it into energy, hormones, and support for everything at the cellular level. So then it's the repair from how you breathe to how you're digesting foods. And when that system is off, everything else feels off downstream from that. Is everyone with me so far? Okay. So metabolic health is referring to having optimal levels, if we're putting numbers to things, of 5 key markers without the need for medication. So the 5 markers that we use when we're talking about metabolic health is blood sugar, triglycerides, HDL, which is referred to as good cholesterol, blood pressure, and waist circumference. These are just metrics that in the medical industries, what we're using and looking at as markers. Together, these reflect how efficiently your body's processing energy and maintaining balance. This is a graphic of what makes up metabolic health. So you can see in the circle on the left is the things I just talked about. And then on the right, it's showing you some markers that the medical industry uses. Some of those, like fasting glucose, I will go over that with you. There's a difference between normal and optimal. This is what we're using on just a generalized basis. Yet up to 80% of metabolic dysfunction is preventable with nutrition and lifestyle interventions. And we are going to discuss that as we keep moving forward. I just wanted to show you a glimpse as to how metabolic syndrome is affecting us on a national level, but also here in Pennsylvania as well. So when 3 or more of those 5 key markers are out of range, it's called metabolic syndrome. So that's just the fancy term that we give it. A condition that drastically increases our risk for cardiovascular diseases, such as heart attack, strokes, diabetes, cognitive decline. These are statistics, so pretty large numbers. 40.3% of US adults are labeled in the range for obesity, and 1 in 3 adults have metabolic syndrome. Approximately 34.2% of Pennsylvania adults are living with obesity, and Pennsylvania ranks top 10 nationwide for childhood obesity from ages 10 to 17. I like to point these out, though, as not like, looking down upon, but more so as an awareness, because it's not a lack of willpower for a lot. It's because our metabolism is in dysfunction, and a lot of it is at the root of ultra-processed foods and things we're exposed to every day. So over 70% of the US food supply is ultra-processed. So before we go into more of that, I like to point out to you what we're actually trying to create and not just weight loss, like I mentioned. So we're looking for energy, clarity, and stability, and just feeling like your best self. Okay, so blood sugar, I think everyone knows what a blood sugar looks like, an A1C when you're getting your labs done. And so I'd like to talk for the next couple of slides is about blood sugar and why it matters. Over time, blood sugar leads to insulin resistance. It can higher blood sugars, I should say, fatigue, brain fog, cravings and mood swings, causing visceral fat gain, higher risk of type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular diseases, and it's because of damaging blood vessels, including the blood-brain barrier, which is causing cognitive decline. So when we talk about dementia and Alzheimer's. So it's completely normal for your blood sugar to go up after you eat. Like we all know that. It'll spike, a couple hours later, it will drop down. But when those glucose levels spike and drop too low, and they fluctuate all over the place all day long, over and over again, it's causing metabolic chaos. Things that cause your blood sugar to go up and down and constantly is frequent snacking, meals that are high in starches and sugars, and then eating meals without fats or proteins with them can cause those fluctuating blood sugars. So my goal is whenever I work with patients, if I put a continuous glucose monitor on you. So let's say we're just checking your glucose all throughout the day, like you commonly see for diabetics. We can also do this in the wellness world where you put it on and you understand how foods are affecting you. And you want that level to be pretty stable, flat line for as much as possible. So my goal would be if you're eating something that's going 15 points over your baseline, you're having a response to a higher glycemic response to those foods. And which are typically starches and sugars. So insulin resistance is something that is super important when we're talking about metabolic health. So I like to break it down for you to explain what exactly is insulin resistance. I feel like that term is being talked about more and more, which is fantastic, but actually understanding what that means is important to know as we walk through this together. So when blood glucose is consistently high, a lot of blood sugar will enter the bloodstream, okay? After you eat, let's say. The food you're eating is broken down into blood sugar. That blood sugar enters your bloodstream, which signals your pancreas to release insulin. Great, that's what it's supposed to do. Insulin helps your blood sugar enter your body's cells. So insulin is coming to your blood, the blood glucose, and it's saying, hey, hang on to me. We're going into the cell to be used for energy, okay? So insulin helps the blood sugar enter the cell to be used for energy, and that insulin will then signal the liver to store blood sugar for later use, okay? Blood sugar enters the cell, which then decreases the blood glucose level because it's no longer in your blood, it's inside the cell. And then it signals insulin, we don't need you anymore, okay? So to explain this simply, you eat, sugar rises, your insulin is released, your cells stop responding, and excess sugar in the bloodstream is very damaging to the body, okay? So that is why it's super important. You always want glucose and insulin to work together and go into the cell. Whenever you're eating more, your blood sugar is higher and higher, the pancreas can't keep up with how much insulin you're needing, and the cells are getting tired and they're like, stop, we're not doing this anymore, and that glucose stays in the bloodstream, okay? And then that insulin keeps creeping up and up, trying to make this go down, but it has nowhere to go. Does that make sense? Okay. The problem with insulin being high, besides, because obviously it's trying to work your blood glucose, but insulin alone at a high level, it's bullying all the other hormones. It bullies all your hormones in your body, which causes a lot of imbalance to occur. It's very inflammatory. And high insulin, because it's going to triggering the liver to store, it's causing a lot of storing glucose in the fat cells, which is then makes it hard to lose weight, okay? Are we seeing a lot of aha moments now? So your body is more insulin sensitive in the morning and the early afternoon. So we want to work with our body and how it's naturally working to support it in what we're eating throughout the day as well. That would be great. So this means it's more efficient at processing glucose earlier in the day. So what can we do to help that is eat your largest meal. Our largest meal typically is at dinner for most people, but it's recommended as like a normal rhythm of how your insulin is released if lunch is more so your biggest meal rather than dinner. Prioritize protein, fiber, and healthy fats at your meals. I specifically put dinner on the slide just because to avoid your starches and things that can spike your blood sugar more so at dinner time. And avoid heavy meals and snacks close to bedtime because your insulin is higher morning, afternoon. So in the evening, it's harder to regulate those spikes that you would get. Other strategies for supporting your blood sugar to keep it, remember, as stable as possible without highs and lows. Starting your meals with protein. I like to tell patients whenever you have your meal, we were kind of always taught like protein, veggie, starch. Always eat your protein first. It will help buffer that blood sugar spike that you get then after eating your veggie starch. Include 20 grams of protein at your meals at least. Avoid naked carbs. Save your sweets for a more balanced, after a balanced meal to try to buffer that spike that you could get. I'm looking through this so I don't waste time. Those are the big ones. Okay, so then I want to talk about your brain. This is just one slide because has everyone seen where we're starting to refer to dementia as type 3 diabetes? Has everyone seen, kind of read that? Okay, so this is where that comes from. The health of your brain is not separate from the rest of the health of your body. So cognitive function, your memory, your mood, mental clarity are deeply affected by blood sugar, majorly inflammation, and then of course blood pressure, your hormones, and visceral fat, because that can damage brain tissue as well. So when these systems are disrupted, your brain pays the price, and you start to see effects of that. Okay, and then I couldn't talk about metabolic health without cholesterol because that's always a question I get is, can you look at my cholesterol panel? I'm on a statin. They tell me I need to go up on it. What do I do about it? What matters? It's very confusing. So cholesterol, when metabolic health is off, blood sugar, insulin, and inflammation creates damage in the body, especially in your blood vessels. So that's where we get really worried about cardiovascular disease. Your body responds by sending cholesterol to help repair that damage in the vessel. That's what cholesterol purpose is when there's damage in your blood vessel. And that it's responding to what's happening upstream. So what's causing that damage in the blood vessel isn't cholesterol. Cholesterol is coming and trying to repair it. So the problem is when we see cholesterol go up, it's what's causing that upstream, the downstream effect of higher cholesterol. We use cholesterol for hormone production, very important, cellular repair, our brain function. And so it's responding to damage, and we need that cholesterol for that. But of course, when it's higher, we need to think what's causing it. What's inflammatory markers are causing it? What food are we eating that could be triggering this for it? What's our blood pressure and other things related to. So of course, it's very important. It's just not a standalone one thing, solid solo. Any questions with that before I move forward? Okay. Inflammation has also been very trendy for good reason. So inflammation is your body's defense system. So we know that, have you guys had labs? You were just sick. Your doctor's like, your white blood cell count's high or a CRP is high. And you're like, I just got over a cold. Great. That's why. Okay. Your body is responding and it's healing, fixing, responding to that. That's what we want. However, when your body stays on in this inflammatory state, that's when it starts to cause damage to our body. So inflammation is not bad until it becomes chronic and it doesn't go away. And that's when it starts working against you instead of for you. So there are the things that we're exposed to every day. And this isn't about perfection. It's about awareness and just small, consistent things that we can do and be aware of and try to eliminate inflammatory exposures in what we can control. Okay? So on this slide, just a couple of things that when we're looking at what our daily routine looks like and what can we try to peel away layers at that could be causing inflammation. If it's a diet high in processed foods, so when I say processed foods, I want to just not leave everything on the table here. Things that come in boxes, packages, fast foods, those types of things are what's considered processed foods. So it's being made, it has a lot of added ingredients and fillers to them, chemicals that are not just the core of what you're thinking you're eating, okay? So say if you're making, oh goodness, I'm putting myself on the spot here. You want the least amount of ingredients as possible, okay? So if you're making, let's say, I went to Sam's Club and I picked up the egg bites. They say like egg something bites, okay? And I was like, I wonder what the ingredients are. I do this for fun, I know. And there was like 50 ingredients on the ingredients list. And I was like, okay, I can make these at home with eggs, cottage cheese, a little bit of cheese and some peppers, okay? So it's just an example. Drinking alcohol, of course, is one of the single most high inflammatory things to do. I just had a patient, I've been working with him for a very long, over a year now. He's lost weight gradually. He owns a bar, so giving up alcohol is very hard for him. And I had a heart-to-heart with him. I did his labs. I'm like, you have some inflammation, like, what's going on? I know you drink alcohol, like, what's the chances? And he's like, I don't know. A month later, he texted me and he said, hey, I gave up alcohol 5 weeks ago. I've lost 20 pounds. That was it. And it was that inflammation he was hanging on to. So I'm not saying everyone's like that, but it's an example of how much he did X, Y, and Z. We've been working together, and it was that alcohol. Smoking cigarettes, of course, we know this. Obesity releases inflammatory substances and disrupts a lot of our hormones. Stress is a humongous one, and irregular sleep patterns. And then, of course, exposures to toxins and pollutants. I could talk about this slide for the next 3 hours, okay? So I'm going to keep moving, but because I do go into it a little more. So sleep is extremely important. In the American culture, we kind of, we sleep when we go to bed. Maybe it's usually like 10 p.m. I have 2 small children, so bedtime is my kind of release, quiet time. And so, but I'm like, okay, I'm not going past 10 p.m. because I know like sleep has to be important. You want to get at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Less than that, it's causing inflammation. It's disrupting hormones. It actually triggers appetite hormones. So it really messes you up throughout the day. Cortisol, so stress. When stress is ongoing or it's combined with sleep deprivation, your body responds by elevating cortisol. So cortisol is your stress hormone. It doesn't just affect your mood. It rewires your metabolism, behavior, and your ability to make changes. So a stressed brain is focused on survival, not self-improvement. Okay, so whenever we are trying to work through these different points of we got to do X, Y, and Z to optimize our metabolic health, if you're in a stressed state, your body's like, hold up, no way, I can't do this. And it defaults to the path of least resistance. Old habits, how can you make energy the quickest, and emotional coping strategies. So if lots of patients come to me, they're like, I really need that bag of chips whenever I'm feeling stressed. Totally get it. That's their cortisol stress response. And trying to rewire that in a stress state it's very, very difficult. So elevated cortisol also leads to appetite and cravings, fat storage in the abdominal area, muscle mass decreased, your blood pressure increases, disrupting your sleep, and then your immune system definitely takes a hit from that as well. Sorry, I hit the microphone. So this is just a quick slide. What do we do about it? As you can see, it's all multifactorial, lots of things involved in it. So now the question becomes, how can we fix it and where do we start? So my approach from my family care background, working with patients, knowing, working with diabetes, high blood pressure, cholesterol, all the things, where do we go to? Back to the beginning. What is causing this? And that comes down to functional nutrition. So how can we balance your blood sugar? How can we help your sleep? How can we help your stress? It is not low sartan medication, okay? All great, all used as tools, all keeping us in line, preventing, but at the core roots of it is going to be functional nutrition, changing what's happening inside your body to balance your blood sugar, nourish your body, and help inflammation. I like this slide because it just shows you how why you can eat enough food and you still feel exhausted, because a lot of the standard American diet is depleted in a lot of our nutrients. Our body really wants protein, it wants fiber, and it wants healthy fats. I'll go over what that means, and your vitamins and minerals. Most are under eating protein. I find that, so when I work with patients, we make a diet log. What does breakfast look like? Lunch, dinner, snacks, everything. And I'll add up that protein, and it's usually about 30 grams. And I tell everyone, you at least hit 80. Let's get there. We can do this, but we do it in baby increments because it's difficult to make changes. Okay, baby steps. But when you add more protein, you have less cravings, you have more energy, you have more muscle mass, and you help your metabolism. It balances your blood sugar. It's super important. It keeps you fuller, and it'll support your hormones. So if you take one thing from me today, just one, because I know I'm throwing a lot at you, start with protein at every meal. It's the foundation of how your body functions. At a cellular level, your body needs protein to function. Per day. So there's an equation that's based off your body weight, but for most people that are under eating protein, which is usually at my starting point, I recommend at least 20 grams at each meal. I think that's a great starting point for people. If then it's personalized though, because if they're like, yeah, I'm already doing 60 to 80 grams, then we go off their equation and really work in like what they're needing. Does that answer your question? So I put this slide in briefly. You can look at it. It's just like a way to show what high protein in one day could look like. It's just an example. I like to say, we're not carrying around scales. That's not realistic. Palm size of your hand. So if you eat a burger, a piece of steak, chicken, whatever your preference is, it's about 20 grams of protein. Of course, that's not perfect, how thick it is, thin it is, etc., but it's a good ballpark to use. Okay?
Spinach supposed to be protein.
No. Oh, it's just like added as like a, yeah. So 1 egg is 7 grams of protein. So 7 times 3, 21. Right there, you got your 20 grams. That's just like beefing it up and making it look yummy. Yes?
So the 3 scrambled eggs, when you're dealing with a cholesterol imbalance, well, do you worry about that, or is that good?
No, that's a great question. A lot of people ask that. For a long time, it's like, eat egg yolks. It's going to increase your cholesterol. I do not find that to be true, and I don't. They're very nutrient dense for protein and a lot of your vitamins and minerals. So this is one of my favorite quotes. If you're in the wellness world at all, Dr. Mark Hyman is very popular. He's a very smart man, and he said, "We are a nation that is overfed but undernourished." And I think that supports one of the important concepts that we're not lacking calories, we're just lacking nutrients. And I personally feel like a lot of that is just because of our food system, how we've been taught, not to put blame anywhere, but kind of take the blame off of ourselves and just feel empowered and accountable as to how we can move forward to better support our metabolism. This slide I really like because it's breaking down some common nutrients that we talk about. So things that assist our energy are your B vitamins, B12. Everyone knows about B12. It's great for a reason. Helps with energy. When it's low, you're feeling really run down. You can get some numbness and tingling in your extremities. It's because it supports your neurovascular system. Immune support. Vitamin C is a huge one for immune support. And so is vitamin D. But I have it under bone building. It should also be under immune support as well. Magnesium is important. In that slide before, a lot of people are deficient in magnesium. Our farming culture now, you get magnesium in soil, and unfortunately our soil is very depleted in magnesium, so we're not getting the magnesium through our foods like we used to. Thyroid health, selenium and iodine, extremely important. Iodine, if you're not using table salt, it's supplemented iodized table salt. So if we're not eating table salt, a lot of us are not getting enough iodine anymore, which our thyroid functions that way. So just some key things to think about. These are more nutrients that matter. Yes? What is it? Kelp? Yeah, I don't think it's an issue. I usually, when supplementing iodine, you don't want to go over about 150 milligrams. So I would just kind of see what it says, like on how much, but yeah, perfect. Okay, yes, were you raising your arm? It does not, but here's the difference. So Himalayan sea salts, natural, helps you with your minerals, etc. That's why we've all replaced table salt. I shouldn't say all of us, but it's commonly replaced now. You're just not getting the iodine like you used to. So, sure, if you eat shrimp every day, then they say you can increase your cholesterol. I'm just kidding. I usually take an iodine supplement, to be totally honest, because I don't eat high iodine food typically. Most people don't. It's very hard to do. And so just once a day, like taking it, it's very cheap and easy to get. Okay, so this is where supplements fit in. They support, they do not replace nutrition. So I always say, starting out, because we do a full panel, we're checking all the things and we're making recommendations, they're used as tools. And then I'm giving nutrition, like how can I fix your B12 without you being stuck on a B complex for the rest of your life, and what foods are high in B vitamins per se, as an example. One thing you'll always be stuck on is vitamin D, because you really need vitamin D and we don't get enough of it otherwise. So, moving forward. Okay, so this is talking about fats. How am I doing on time? Okay, I gotta fly through these. I'm almost done, actually. Not all fats are the same. So this goes back to the inflammation. I'm sure all of us kind of have a grasp on this. We've heard of olive oil and avocado oil, etc. So processed oils would be vegetable oil, canola oil, you know, your spray oils you really got to pay attention to. Like, it's once you're in that habit, it's good, it's easy, but getting out of those things that you used to use, like my grandma, like she always used Crisco, and you know, my mom still uses Crisco. I'm like, Mom, what are you doing? You can just use butter. And she's like, I know, I can't help it. Like, so just like being aware of that. So my mom doesn't like when I come in her kitchen sometimes. Whole fats. So healthy fats are supporting our hormones and helping us function. So if you remember when I talked about your brain wants fat, okay? That's why we don't want to keep suppressing our cholesterol so much. You run a really gray area in balance because your brain needs fat, okay? Yeah, coconut oil is good. There's always been kind of like, there's a lot of controversies, and so that's where I think it's helpful to have, like, you know, someone to say like, hey, what exactly should I be doing? Coconut oil is good. Even in nursing school, it was one of those things where they were like, on your boards, you might get this question, just answer it this way, but it's actually good for you. So you guys are not alone in feeling confused about that. Okay, so fats are essential. It's not about avoiding them, it's about choosing the right types. So forget what diet culture told you, which is kind of what I was hinting at. Fat is not the enemy. It's a critical part of our metabolic health and long-term weight reduction regulation. So what kind of fat should you prioritize? I just mentioned this, but I want to give you examples for nutrition as well. And that comes in some fish. It comes in flax, chia seeds, nuts and seeds like walnuts. And they're known for their anti-inflammatory support. So, okay, water. I'm not going to go deep into this because we're running out of time, but it's not just a basic health tip. It's super important, but we overlook it a lot. Most people are chronically dehydrated. I've worked with a lot of patients. I know, I hear you. You don't want to drink a lot. You have to pee a lot at nighttime. But it is crucial. And then we need electrolytes too. So as you're more active, as it's getting hot outside, be aware of that and really help to replace some of those important electrolytes. And you can do that with unsalted broths, water-rich fruits and vegetables, teas. So if you're like, I really just don't like water, please don't avoid water, but you also can stay hydrated other ways as well. Okay, these slides are in your handouts. These are just like, you know, typical common foods that are bought at the grocery store and some healthier swaps to do so. When we talked about protein, one of my very favorite, I am not endorsed by anything. I wish I was, but I'm not. These chopsticks are my number one go-to for a healthy protein jerky option, and they're 10 grams per stick. And protein shakes, while I like for you to get your protein out of food, when we are supplementing, busy throughout the day, if we have a shake, you can even use it to add to foods, like recipes. Just Ingredients is a brand that I personally use. It's clean ingredients. So it doesn't have all those fillers and things that will add to inflammation. Okay, most diets don't fail because of willpower, so I'm kind of going back to the weight loss and metabolism analogy. Do you guys see how metabolic health is so much more than just weight loss? It's like how it's all tied together. And when we address metabolism as a whole with inflammation, hormones, blood sugar regulation, insulin resistance, it all plays together. So Where do you start? You're like, okay, great. Thanks for all the information. Now what do I do? If you take anything away, like I said, try to add protein at every meal. Get your protein, drink plenty of water, reduce added sugars. I know. Focus on whole foods. Anything box packaged, just make it a habit. Look at the ingredients. If there's 50 ingredients, please put it back on the shelf. And prioritize your sleep and stress. Easier said than done, I know, but super important. This is just a QR code that you can scan to understand metabolism better. I do offer it's called a wellness roadmap is what I call it at NOG Health and Aesthetics. And this is where we do a deep dive into a full panel of labs checking metabolic health, hormones, inflammation, full thyroid panel, and then going from there as to how to correct it and work on it. Or it could be fantastic. I also have my phone number on here, my email. Please feel free if you have questions as you're flipping through this. Happy to help as much as I can. And I also put out education on my social medias, which is listed on this slide as well. I'm going to get to you in 1 second. I made a metabolic lab guide. So for everyone that attended today, you can download this QR code. It's totally free to look at, to see, but it's all the labs that I do and explains why and what we're looking at. So I don't just check your blood sugar, I'm checking your A1C, but I'm also checking a fasting insulin, which is not commonly checked. And that's giving you an idea of what insulin resistance you have. So you have this in your slides. You can do this now, or you can have it for at home too. Questions? Yes, you raised your hand.
I wondered about, are there a lot of herbs and also like pepper and cinnamon, do they help with your metabolism?
No, that's a great question. There's a lot of different herbs that hit different targeted focuses on what they're beneficial for. Like peppermint is good for gut. It can ease your gut, it can be helpful. Tea, so like referring to teas, and then also cooking with different herbs and things is great. Yeah, whole foods, fantastic. Grows in the garden. Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah.
I have another one for you. So I basically felt pretty healthy, energetic, the whole thing. I've basically had a pretty good diet, have improved it over the years, but I've noticed a huge change post-menopausal.
Yes.
Like how can you, like the pre-menopausal person looks at this, and when you still have those hormones working, it seems like things are so much better. You don't have the brain fog, but boy, afterwards, are there any tips that you can offer us? And I think a majority of some of them are probably in that stage that would help in addition to, or is this supposed to work for both, whether we have the hormones now or not?
So it's both. So you would optimize your hormones through functional nutrition, but you also can use like hormone therapy. Okay. If that's, that's something that we always talk about, if you're a candidate for it, etc. Very beneficial though. Estrogen receptors a whole way across your body from brain, skin, etc. And so when it's depleted, it's really affecting you.
Right. But is there a period where you have to stop that? Like, is that only give us a few good years?
No. To answer your question, no.
Okay.
No, yeah, that's a great question though, because there is like, I think you're referring to 10 years post-menopause as like that magical window. Is that what you're referring to?
Well, no, just general life.
Oh, okay.
I
no.
am postmenopausal now, so that's over, and I can definitely see that even though I'm doing all of these things, I don't have those hormones.
But you're right, because without the hormones, it makes it even harder, and it's also causing inflammation.
So is there ways that we can offset that naturally without having to bring in the hormones?
Yeah, if that's the preference, yeah. There is.
That's a simple thing.
Because without estrogen too, you're losing, your gut is becoming more permeable, it's releasing inflammation, it's like everything's connected. God created our bodies very intricately, and so it is like, it's fun to put it all together, but it's also really overwhelming and confusing. But to answer your question, yes, there is some things you can do. Any other questions? I don't love them because a lot of studies show they cause inflammation. So things that I recommend are more of your natural sweeteners. So when I make coffee in the morning, I put honey in my coffee instead of Splenda or something like that. Or if you're drinking like soda or something like that, I mean, the artificial sweeteners in it are, there's obvious proof that it's causing inflammation and other, because it's chemicals that we're putting in our body. So which artificial sweetener? Stevia is probably your best, most natural artificial, aside from like honey. Yeah. Does that answer your question? Yes. Yep, great question. So so Norland Pharmacy is giving you a coupon. They have great quality supplements. I have what's called Full Script. It's a full pharmaceutical, like very high grade quality, because you want it to be, they're not tested, right? So third party tested, has that USP certified on the bottle. Those are good things to look for. Amazon, things like that. You don't know if they're storing your supplements properly. You don't know what fillers they're putting in them. So things to be aware of there. Mm-hmm. Is that helpful? And also too, you don't want to, it's hard because you're trying to do things, but blindly taking supplements, it can add up very quickly and you don't know what you're taking and what's working with what, etc. Like you shouldn't take like vitamin D. I tell everyone I have a very favorite vitamin D. It has all the best friends it likes to absorb with. If you're taking plain vitamin D, which traditional practice medicine, someone's low, it's like, here, take this 50,000 once a week. Well, now it's not helping. Like you should take it every day and you need to take it with fatty food, because it's a fat soluble vitamin. It's looking for fat to absorb with. And then it wants magnesium, boron, vitamin K2, and vitamin A. So it's all the best friends, right? So when you're looking at your vitamin D supplement and it just says D, like, wait, you need those cofactors. Doesn't mean it won't absorb, but you're not getting the most potency out of it per se. So if you're like, my vitamin D is low, it's not going up, well, I'm taking it every day, that's probably why. Maybe. Yeah. It's fatty food for sure, magnesium, boron, vitamin K2 is popular. So a lot, if you look at them, says K2, and vitamin A. Yeah. My favorite vitamin D, it's OsteoPX, if that helps you.
Is it?
OsteoPX.
What's that for?
It's on my Full Script. It's where I've only ever found it, but that's my favorite. Vitamin D. OsteoPX. OSTEOPX. D3. 5,000 units. Any other questions? Yes.
So I heard you say with that man that he lost weight with the inflammation. So what exactly is inflammation in the body and how does it like, or what was it? Was it like baptismal fat or what's inflammation?
So it's different signals, inflammatory markers per se, that our cells are releasing that they're in distress. And then that is signaling to everything in the body, causing disruption. So like fat cells release inflammatory markers. So when we're checking labs, there's different things that can show that you have inflammation. So it's called like a CRP, high sensitivity. I check homocysteine, a uric acid. That's actually in that lab guide I said. You can look that, those are inflammatory markers to look for and explaining that. But it's working on all different systems and how they're functioning. And so it's either slowing you down, making it more difficult to lose weight. They're all intertwined. So when there's inflammation, it's harder for the thyroid to do what it's supposed to do. The gut's causing inflammation. So figuring out where it's coming from, what's causing it, it's kind of multifactorial. Yes?
You think of a number of these vitamins being gummies?
That's a great question. A lot of the gummies have added things in them too. So I don't ever recommend gummies. If someone's like, I hate capsules, and my grandma's really bad about that. I've gotten like drops for under the tongue and things. Like, do you guys have the drops now? I'm sure you do. Yeah.
Most gummies are unstable.
Yeah.
The more you open that lid, it just, when you get to the bottom, you're probably not going to just get it.
And they have like all, dyes that cause inflammation, the sugar, it's spiking your, so they're not my favorite. I don't recommend them ever, but to each their own. I don't give my kids gummy vitamins, so. Yes.
Magnesium is important to the body, and with my heart issue, I have irregular heart
Yeah.
atrial fib, and I wasn't getting enough magnesium.
hmm
And he said it is important to have magnesium.
And there's different types. Yep. So, and it's hard. You have to check the right way. It's difficult to get a good, accurate reading. And there's different types of magnesium. So that's another thing of like kind of targeting what you're trying to do and how using it. Like I recommend magnesium glycinate a lot because that's a good generalized one. It helps with bedtime. It helps with stress. So again, if you guys have questions, you can email me. I'm happy to answer them. That lab guide can kind of show you some like insight to it, explain some things. I hope that you found this valuable. I really like sharing and talk. I could literally talk for hours and hours about this. And it was really nice to have you guys here. I really appreciate you coming and taking your time. I know that's everyone's time is very valuable. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Damara.
Yeah, absolutely.